The Galactic Council had declared humans unsuitable for intergalactic diplomacy 3 cycles ago. Too soft, they said. Too empathetic. Too willing to die for causes that didn't benefit their species. The Catharian Empire, however, saw opportunity where others saw weakness. Lyra stepped off the transport shuttle onto the obsidian surface of Cathar Prime, her boots clicking against stone that had witnessed 1,000 years of conquest. The air tasted of copper and ozone. Around her, the architecture spoke of violence refined into art, towers of black crystal that pierced the crimson sky like bloodied fangs. Human Lyra, Ambassador Vorkon's voice rumbled like grinding boulders. The massive Catharian stood 3 meters tall, his forearms crossed in what she'd learned was a gesture of cautious respect. You understand the parameters of your assignment? Lyra nodded, adjusting the translator chip behind her ear. I'm to assess whether Threx, heir to the Imperial throne, can be educated in diplomatic protocol. If he can learn restraint, the Empire gains a seat on the Council. If he cannot, she didn't finish. They both knew failure meant war. The young prince is spirited, Vorkon said carefully. 23 tutors have attempted his education. None survived past the 3rd lesson. Survived? The Catharian young possess all their hunting instincts before they develop cognitive restraint. Threx is 4 solar cycles old enough to kill, too young to question why. Vorkon's black eyes studied her. Your species has a saying about teaching predators, yes? You can't teach an old dog new tricks, Lyra replied. But Threx isn't old. He's a child. The ambassador's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or disbelief. They brought Threx to her in chains. The cub barely reached Lyra's chest, but his presence filled the chamber like compressed violence. Slate-gray scales covered his compact frame, and his eyes, 6 of them arranged in a predator's perfect field of vision, tracked her every movement. He strained against the ionic restraints, claws extended, a low growl building in his throat. The guards retreated immediately, sealing the chamber door behind them. Lyra sat down on the floor. Threx froze, confusion disrupting his aggression. In his short life, everything had either fled from him or attempted to dominate him. This creature did neither. Hello, Threx, Lyra said softly, in perfectly accented Catharian. My name is Lyra. I'm told you're very strong. The cub's growl intensified, but his head tilted slightly. These chains must be uncomfortable, she continued, pulling a small device from her pocket. I'm going to release them. But first I want to show you something. She pressed her palm against the floor and pushed. Nothing happened because she was human and weak, and her muscles were designed for a gentler world, you see? I can't even stand up easily in your gravity. If you wanted to hurt me, you could. Very easily. She looked directly into his multiple eyes. But you know what? I don't think you want to. All tutors fear me, Threx said, his first words rough and uncertain. Why do you not fear? Oh, I'm terrified, Lyra admitted and smiled. Fear is what keeps us alive. But fear isn't the same as disrespect. She activated the device. The chains dissolved into vapor. Threx could have torn her apart in the 3 seconds it would take the guards to breach the door. Instead, he sat down, mirroring her posture with eerie precision. Why? He asked. Because I wanted to see what you'd do when you had a choice, Lyra said. Every other tutor treated you like a weapon to be controlled. But you're not a weapon, Threx. You're a person who happens to be very good at fighting. For the next weeks, Lyra taught him nothing about diplomacy. Instead, she taught him games. Human games, chess, where strength meant nothing and strategy everything. Go, where the goal wasn't destruction but territory. She told him stories, not Catharian conquest legends, but human tales of cooperation, sacrifice, and second chances. This story is foolish, Threx declared one day, after hearing about a human who'd saved his enemy from drowning. The enemy would kill him later. Maybe, Lyra agreed. But maybe the enemy would remember the kindness and choose differently. Humans believe that today's enemy might be tomorrow's ally. Catharians believe today's enemy should not see tomorrow. I know. That's why your empire hasn't been invited to the Galactic Council. Lyra moved her chess piece. Checkmate. Threx studied the board, his claws clicking against the pieces. I could scatter these across the room. Claim victory through strength, you could. Would that make you wise? The cub was silent for a long moment. Then carefully he extended one claw and tipped over his own king. I concede. On the day of the assessment, the Galactic Council representatives filled the Imperial Chamber. Beings from 100 worlds watched as Threx entered, unchained and unguarded. Lyra stood to one side, her heart hammering. Ambassador Vorkon began the traditional challenge, a series of provocations designed to trigger a Catharian's hunting reflex. Threx endured them all, his body tense but controlled. Then a Vorkel representative, massive and armored, made a mistake. He mentioned Lyra, called her weakness personified, suggested she'd corrupted the air. Threx moved like lightning, crossing the chamber in a blur of scales and fury. The representatives scrambled backward. Guards raised weapons, but Threx didn't attack. He stopped between Lyra and the Vorkel, lowered his head, and spoke in a voice the entire chamber could hear. This human taught me that strength without wisdom is merely violence. She could have kept me chained. Instead, she gave me choice. He raised his head, meeting the Vorkel's eyes. She is not weak. She is what strength becomes when it evolves. Then, in a gesture that had never appeared in Catharian history, Threx bowed. Not in submission. In respect, the chamber erupted. Vorkon's mandibles spread in what Lyra now recognized as pure joy. The council representatives whispered among themselves, and she caught fragments. Unprecedented. Evolution of culture. Perhaps the humans were right. Later, as Lyra prepared to depart, Threx approached her one final time. "Teacher," he said formally, "why did you risk your life for me? I am nothing to humanity." Lyra smiled, reaching up to briefly touch his scaled shoulder. "That's where you're wrong, Threx. Every child, human, Catharian, or otherwise, is everything. They're the future choosing what to become." As her shuttle lifted off, she watched the heir to the galaxy's mightiest predator species stand in the courtyard below, one claw raised in farewell. The galaxy would never be the same. And perhaps, Lyra thought, that was exactly as it should be.